Hello everyone and welcome back to Learn and Lead in English. Here we explore history, culture, and global events that continue to influence our lives today. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Sarah Khan. Today's topic takes us to one of the most heavily guarded places on Earth. The Korean Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ. A narrow strip of land that has divided North and South Korea for over 70 years. It's not just a border. It's a symbol of unresolved conflict, deep political divisions, and fascinating international diplomacy.
Absolutely. And Sarah, what's interesting is that the DMZ is only about 4 kilometers wide and 250 kilometers long, yet it's one of the most tense and significant borders in the world. But to really understand why it exists, we have to go back to the end of the Second World War. So, shall we start from there?
Yes, let's rewind to 1945. When Japan surrendered at the end of World War II, it gave up control of Korea, which it had occupied for decades since 1910. The peninsula was then divided along the 38th parallel. The northern part under Soviet influence and the southern part under American influence. This division was supposed to be temporary, but ideological differences between communism in the north and democracy in the south quickly turned the line into a permanent political border. In 1948, 2 separate governments were established. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea in the north, led by Kim Il-sung, and the Republic of Korea in the south, led by Syngman Rhee. Neither side accepted the legitimacy of the other, and tension grew rapidly. Daniel, this leads us to the outbreak of the Korean War in 1950. What exactly triggered that war?
The spark came when North Korean forces, supported by the Soviet Union and later China, invaded the South in June 1950, aiming to unify the peninsula under communist rule. The United Nations, led by the United States, came to the aid of South Korea. The war raged for 3 years with devastating losses on both sides. Millions of soldiers and civilians died. By 1953, both sides were exhausted, and an armistice was signed. But here's the key point: it was a ceasefire, not a peace treaty. That's why, technically, the 2 Koreas are still at war today. The armistice established the DMZ, a buffer zone roughly along the 38th parallel. It was meant to prevent direct military clashes. But Sarah, the DMZ is not just about security, is it? There's more going on there.
Yes, much more. In the middle of the DMZ, there's a village called Panmunjom, officially known as the Joint Security Area, or JSA. This is the only place where North and South Korean soldiers stand face to face. You can see blue conference buildings where negotiations are held. In fact, visitors can even step across a line inside the conference room and technically be in North Korea, though always under heavy supervision. Panmunjom has hosted countless talks, some successful, many not. But perhaps the most surprising moment came in June 2019, when US President Donald Trump met North Korean leader Kim Jong here, stepping briefly into North Korean territory. It was the first time a sitting US president had ever done so. Daniel, that meeting made headlines, but it also brought up an important question. Does the DMZ help peace, or does it keep the conflict frozen?
That's a complicated question. On one hand, the DMZ prevents open warfare by creating a physical barrier. On the other, it also cements the division, making reunification harder. Economically, South Korea has thrived. It's one of the world's most advanced economies. North Korea, on the other hand, remains isolated, with a centrally planned economy, heavy military spending, and widespread poverty. Politically, the DMZ has made the Korean peninsula a focal point of global tension. During the Cold War, it was one of the front lines between US-led capitalism and Soviet-Chinese communism. Even today, it influences world politics, from nuclear negotiations to military alliances. Sarah, do you think the DMZ will ever disappear?
I think it's possible but not anytime soon. Reunification would require massive economic, political, and cultural adjustments. It's not just about removing soldiers or tearing down fences. It's about healing decades of distrust. However, there are small signs of hope: cultural exchanges, separated family reunions, and joint sports teams. In the meantime, the DMZ has also become something unexpected: a haven for wildlife. Because humans can't live there, rare species like the red-crowned crane and the Amur leopard thrive in this untouched habitat. So, in a strange way, this place of division has also become a sanctuary for nature. Daniel, before we wrap up, what's your takeaway from the DMZ's story?
For me, the DMZ is a reminder that wars don't always end with peace treaties. Sometimes they just stop, leaving wounds that take generations to heal. It shows how political borders can divide not only land but also families, economies, and futures. But it also shows the resilience of people and even nature in the face of conflict.
And for me, it's proof that understanding history is essential if we want a more peaceful future. The DMZ may be heavily armed, but it's also a place where diplomacy can and sometimes does happen.
That's all for today's episode of Learn and Lead in English. But before we wrap up, Sarah, let's take a moment to look at 5 important words from today's episode.
Sure, here they are. Number 1. Armistice. An agreement to stop fighting, usually before a peace treaty is signed. Number 2. Demilitarized. An area where no army, weapons, or military activity is allowed. Number 3. Propaganda. Information, often biased, used to influence people's thinking. Number 4. Polarization. A situation where people or countries become completely divided into 2 very different and opposing sides. Number 5. Diplomatic. Managing relationships between countries through peaceful talks and negotiations.
Thanks, Sarah, for breaking down those important words for our listeners. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Korean DMZ, make sure to follow Learn and Lead in English so you never miss a story that helps you understand our world more clearly.
And remember, every place, every event, and every word we explore can teach us something new. Until next time, keep learning, keep leading, and keep discovering the world around you.